Snow White is the most recent live-action Disney remake, so is it any good? So it's not like the newest thing in the world that Disney has made live-action remakes of their classic animated movies, but in the last 10 years or so, it has gotten a lot more common, and especially within the last couple years, we've just been getting an abundance of live-action Disney remakes, and for the most part, all of them have been stinkers. And unfortunately, it's no different for Snow White. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, but let's get into today's review. So the 2025 live-action remake of Snow White, Disney's first animated movie ever, stars Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. Rachel Zegler is great and the best part of this movie, despite her negative and nasty things that she said about the original Snow White movie. And surprise, surprise, not to throw any sort of shade, but Gal Gadot is not good in this movie whatsoever. Now, we'll get into everything that I just really disliked about this movie, but let's just get through quickly the two things I liked about it. Even though I hate, and we'll talk about this more later, but even though I hate the designs of the 7 dwarves, they were one of the best parts of the movie. They were funny, they were charismatic, I liked their characters, they were funny, and I wish we got to see more of them. Grumpy had the best line of the movie. He says, "They call you happy because you're always happy. They call me grumpy because I'm misunderstood." Now, there was only 10 people in my screening and most of them were kids, but when that line was said, I let out a pretty loud chuckle because that's funny. Dopey had more character development than Snow White, and the 7 dwarves mining scene where they're singing Hi Ho is the best scene in the live action remake. And honestly, it was probably the best scene from the original movie too, because I am not a big fan of the original Snow White. I mean, I think it's technically a marvel and a beautiful looking movie, but the story was lackluster, and somehow this movie made it even more lackluster. Rachel Zegler's performance was great, as already stated, so that was another plus that I had with it. But yeah, this is when we're going to get into the bad, because there is far more bad in this movie. Starting off with the big bad, Gal Gadot. A rotted tree has more character than Gal Gadot in this movie. Now, for the longest time, I never disliked Gal Gadot, and I don't even know if I'm going to go as far as to say that I dislike her, but I think her best performance was in Wonder Woman, the first movie. But every single performance after that has just gotten increasingly worse. So I don't know what it is, but her agents are just giving her the wrong jobs. She's just getting typecasted for these roles when she doesn't actually know how to act, and it shows so horribly. Well, I guess it shows good, her bad acting in this movie, because oh my gosh, it is so distracting and it was so bad the entire movie. It felt like it was Gal Gadot just playing Gal Gadot, and it was an imitation of the original evil queen from the first Snow White movie. By the way, adapted characters aren't about mimicking the original source material. It's about making your own performance that is reminiscent of the original, but making it your own thing. This one somehow mimics the original, but just does it in a way where it's like, what the hell am I watching? Terrible line delivery. It feels like they only took one take on each scene with Gal Gadot. Really, the only thing that Gal has going for this role is her looks. I think her looks fits the character of the evil queen really well. But man, that performance was so awful. The next complaint that I have goes off of some of the things that Rachel Zegler was saying throughout other press junkets for her other movies when talking about the original source material of Snow White, and that they didn't want to make a story about a princess being saved by a knight in shining armor. Instead, they put the prince in this movie and just make them have a love interest, make them have to be together rather than actually giving them any sort of chemistry to make that relationship feel more valid. So instead of going with the storybook romantic tale of the knight in shining armor saving the princess, they decide to, rather than actually building up chemistry, just put them together because that's what we're supposed to be watching. The writing in this movie is just utter garbage. The next thing I want to make point of are the dwarves. Now, a while ago, Peter Dinklage did come out saying that he seemed like it was offensive to cast little people in the role of dwarves because, in a sense, it's typecasting, but also, in another sense, when you look at it, it's representation. And I think the fact that this movie not only cast dwarves in the movie, they didn't cast them in the role of the dwarves. Are you joking me? Now, maybe it's not my place to say, but I do feel like there have been a lot of people within that community that were upset that they didn't actually cast little people in those roles. It seems like it would have made perfect sense, and I guess it's because they're not real little people, they're fantasy dwarves, but also, it's all about that representation, and I feel like that's what a lot of people are fighting for nowadays, and the fact that Disney decided to go with casting tall people and then just CGIing animated dwarves over their bodies was just a very interesting choice. Again, maybe it's not my place to speak on it. I just thought that that was very strange. The original Snow White movie was never the best. I think a lot of people have a lot of nostalgia when it comes to Snow White, but I never thought that Snow White was one of those Disney movies where it was just like, oh, I mean, it is a classic, but it's not like, it's not great. It's not like a great movie. And this one just somehow makes it that much worse. There's no love, there's no heart, there's no soul, and at least there was a little bit of that within the first Snow White movie. Moral of the story is that this is just another slog Disney live action remake that we didn't need, and if we didn't need it, they could have done a much better job creating a far better story. Also, another little thing that I wanted to touch on was the old lady that comes to visit Snow White to give her the poison apple. Am I the only one that thinks that the version of that lady in the live action movie doesn't necessarily look ugly? Like, they just look like a old woman. But at least in the original Snow White movie, it looked like a scary old witch-looking character. That I definitely did not get that from the live action movie. But anyways, I don't know. That was just a little thing. But other than that, movie's not good. Not a fun time. Like I said, there were some funny lines. Rachel Ziegler was good. I liked the character of the dwarves. Didn't like the design. But everything else was just terrible. Now, on a good note, I do think that children, they will really still like this movie because it's Disney. I mean, you can't really beat that. I mean, kids are always going to love a Disney movie, and I don't know how many kids have been introduced to Snow White nowadays, but I feel like the majority have, and I think that this is still a movie that is capable of being good for the children's eye. At least it's not a kids movie that I think that even kids wouldn't like, so at least that's a good thing. But newsflash, I'm not a kid. I did not like this movie. Complain all you want. I know I'm an adult and I know it's for kids, but a movie's getting released in theaters. That means anyone can go see it. I did not like it. But yeah, that brings you to the end of the review. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of it. I appreciate every single one of you. And remember, your movie moment is right around the corner. See you in the next video.